Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Kanye's been on a tirade of content about the music industry, about people, getting jerked around, people signing over their publishing, him not liking his situation with Universal, him not liking his publishing deal with Sony. He's just been going in. I've been loving it. I've been covering it. The video with KB and Kanye not being crazy, that video is going crazy. That's been super fun. And so, in the midst of all this, some people have called out Kanye, people that were signed to him and people that weren't signed to him. One of those was Hit Boy. Hit Boy talked about, how can you be talking about this stuff? And when I was signed to you, you stopped working with me because I worked with Beyonce. And, after I gave you all these hit records, Hit Boy is actually a producer from the IE, legendary producer from this area. Wendy Day, friend of mine, friend of the channel, was like, hey Kanye, how about you release all them good music contracts? How about you show the public what kind of deals you signed your artist to? I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And a legend that I know or I've met, I don't know if I say I know him, I think he would remember me if we crossed paths. Mason Betha responded to Kanye and kind of made Kanye apologize. Let's check this out. Okay, so this is Mase's Instagram page, RSVP Mase. He said, Kanye West, and this has a picture. Backstory, if you guys don't know who Mase is, Mase was signed to Diddy, Bad Boy Records. He kind of became the guy after Biggie passed, and he became, Puffy's right-hand man. And he put out an album that was classic. It was called Harlem World. He did a group. He was about to put out a second album. And in the midst of being arguably one of the biggest rappers out, if not like the top tier. This is right before Jay-Z and DMX really took over that top tier. This is the late 90s. Mase gets radically saved and becomes a pastor. And he wrote a book about it. The book was stellar. It was a really good book because I was coming to my faith around the same time Mase wrote the book. He had been walking with the Lord for a few years. And so he wrote this book about it. And he just gets this radical conversion right in the middle of everything, being one of the most successful rappers. And in the midst of that, he kind of got under Creflo Dollar, moved to Atlanta, and kind of started floating in some of the prosperity circles, which was neither here nor there. I'll tell you guys my experience with Mase in a little bit, but I wanted to read you guys this caption he put up on Instagram. He says, Kanye West, much of what you are feeling has been expressed before. Yes, it has. But when I was saying it, the same system and mindset that you are fighting against today used you to shame me for leaving the very same system. Remember your famous line, don't leave when you hot? I know today you may see it very differently. So you owe me and my family a public apology and then some. If anyone owes you one, for alluding to the fact that me following God at the height of my career was a bad decision. Bam, bam, bam. Pastor Mason Betha. Yo, my man came with it. He told the truth. He told the truth. And what line is he talking about? In 2010, I think during the Good Music series, I forgot which record it was. It was one of the, oddly enough, Kanye and Mase kind of worked on one of those records around the same time. And Kanye had a line about, don't leave when you hot. And it was kind of like a little jab at Mase. And Mase says, hey man, if everybody owes you this apology and you want Kendrick and J. Cole and all these guys to apologize to you, you owe me an apology. You owe me an apology. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. That is very, very interesting. So Kanye responds. Before Kanye responds, I got to tell you guys my story with Mase. Now, Mase, again, iconic, legendary artist. I read his book. I liked his book. I liked the transition. I don't really rock with the super prosperity theology stuff, but I liked him. I liked him standing up to Diddy and he's trying to get his publishing back. Till this day, Diddy won't give him his publishing back. 26 years later, can't get his publishing back. And I like what Mase represented. And so me and Mase been around each other, hung out a few times. One of the times, actually a show in Oceanside. Anthony O'Neill, shout out to Anthony O'Neill. He put the show together, had me come out. I think I opened and kind of spoke for him before he went on and did a couple poems. And it was really cool. And I got to hang out with Mase and the pastor, and we were just kind of hanging out. He was real tired, but he was super cool dude, super duper cool dude. And we were hanging out, and I was just kind of sharing some things about hip hop to him and how, we have the opportunity to redeem hip hop and not just reject hip hop. And he was like, wow, that's dope. it was really cool. This is like maybe 2013. So, you know, we had a good event. We had a really good event. He actually can preach. Like Mase can preach, okay? Which is really odd with some of the stuff that happened afterward. But Mase can like really preach. And so after the event, and I don't do this. I am not that guy. But I came out to him. I was like, hey, man, like, I know you're going to be in San Diego for a while. Can we get together? I got a word. And I never do this. But I did it. And I really did legitimately have something I felt like I needed to share with him. And it completely freaked Mase out. And I probably came off like a weirdo, because some of you guys who DM me stuff like that come off like weirdos. But I thought we had some rapport. We had just spent like an hour and a half kicking it before the event. We did the event together. We kicked it afterwards. And I said that, and he was like, yo, what, you know? Anyway, long story short, couple months later, we're actually in Atlanta. Me and my wife are in Atlanta. We go to Mase's church. It was all love. He was super cool. He remembered me. We chopped it up, and it was just kind of like, yo, like, I'll hit you when I'm in San Diego. Let's connect, right? And so I guess the whole like I got a word, which I don't recommend you do that. I don't know why I did that, but I sincerely felt like I had a word for him, and I actually think it kind of played out the way neither here nor there. So. It was all good. It was all cool. I think that was the last time I saw him anywhere. And it was dope. It was like, cool guy. So the thing that was interesting about Mase is like a Christian, solid Christian, can preach, had a cool church. I've been to a church. I heard him preach. And then he kept like dabbling and having this Murder Mase persona in music. And I didn't quite understand it. Like, I didn't understand this double-mindedness, right? Like, bro, just be a Christian who raps. Be a Christian rapper. Be a part of Christian hip hop. It doesn't really matter. Just be congruent. Be congruent. Be consistent. Be you. And this is why I do love Kanye. Like, Kanye is congruent. When Kanye got saved and gave his life to Jesus, he was that, right? Like, he was that. He stopped cussing. He stopped doing his old records. When I saw him live, the lyrics changed. And Mase was pastoring a church, running around with Diddy and still doing his old lyrics and still performing. And he did like a run with G Unit where he was Murder Mase, shooting and killing people again. And it was just weird. It was just weird. I didn't understand it. And nevertheless, shout out to Mase. I doubt he's watching this, but if he is, a cool guy, like sincerely a cool guy. The Mase the rapper, I think, is kind of different than Mason Betha the person. And I think I met Mason Betha the person, and he was super solid. Good preacher as well. Mase the rapper is remember I told you guys, like, some folks in the non-Christian world view their art as a stage persona. Exactly, Ted. It's a stage persona. It's a character, right? And they're not necessarily the same person. So anyway, that's my story. That's my Mase story. Cool dude. Did he explain that? You got to send me that link, Range. He said he explained that on his Breakfast Club interview. So Mase says, Kanye, if everybody owes you an apology, you owe me an apology. And this is why I love Mase. And so Kanye responded. And he said, Mase is right about that line, right? The line of like, don't leave when you hot. I always felt funny about that line. Mase is one of my favorite rappers, which Kanye said before. And I based a lot of my flows off of him. I'm the king of, ooh, I can get away with this bar. So I reap what I sow when the next generation does the same to me. Very interesting. I don't know if this is an apology. I don't know if this is him repenting. It seems like it is, but I wish he would have just flat out apologized. Yeah, bro, my bad. I shouldn't have said that line. Kanye has no issue with apologizing. He's apologized before about, performing at the Pornhub Awards or whatever. He's apologized before. It's not a big deal for him. So it was interesting the way he worded it. I wish he just would have been like, Mase, I'm sorry, my bad. Let me reach out to you. How are you doing in your faith? Yada, 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 right? And so I think that would have been cool. Interesting exchange, nevertheless. Both very similar stories, both at the peak of their careers, except the difference is I think Kanye actually had some better mentors and some better Christians around him, and maybe had a better enough of a clout in the industry where he could make the shift and drop the unapologetically Christian album. And maybe Mase in the late 90s, which was a different time, couldn't. Maybe he couldn't. I don't know what Mase is doing now. I don't think he's preaching anymore. I don't think he has a church in Atlanta anymore. Unfortunately, I think he got divorced. I don't know if they're reconciled. But from everything I experienced with him personally, and again, in a brief time, I heard him preach in person twice. I kicked it with him for maybe a collective of 2 or 3 hours, right? Actually just like hanging out with him. He seemed like a really solid dude. Like he really did. He seemed like he sincerely loved Jesus. It seemed like he had a great head on his shoulders. Seemed like he was a family man. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know what happened, but I feel like, to me, I feel like it's very difficult doing the two things, right? James says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. So when Mase and Betha, the person is the preacher and the Christian and the family man, and then Mase the rapper is Murder Mase, and he's talking about smashing your girl, and he's running around with Diddy, and he's doing these, you know, shows overseas. I don't think those two things are congruent. I don't think those two things are healthy. And maybe that's what happened. But that's the verse that comes to me, guys, is a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. We are called to be congruent, to have integrity. The root word for integrity is integer. And I'm not saying Mase doesn't have integrity. I don't know, like, I don't know him like that. But I will say that having these two split personas, I don't think is healthy. And I would challenge all of us who are looking at getting in entertainment, all of us who are looking at being a YouTube star, creating content, building media companies. I talk about that a lot. Be congruent, be one in the same, be the same person all the time. Do not put on a persona. Do not be an imposter. Those of you guys that are really into influencer culture, you will hear this phrase, imposter syndrome. Don't be that. I do my very best to be who I really am on camera, that like I try to be the same person in every circle, right? And again, this isn't so much directly about Mase. This is just about us as people, right? I think Mase is a great guy. Shout out to Mase if you're watching. I would love to have Mase on this channel. I don't know where he's at. He doesn't really do a lot of like media stuff, which I think is probably wise. And by the way, that Cameron diss track he put out a couple years ago was flames, fugo. So those are my thoughts. What do you guys think about this idea of being incongruent? Does Kanye owe Mase an apology?
King's Dream Entertainment. Ruslan.